Well, hello, and welcome back to Session 5. As we continue exploring more about our amazing psychological functions and how we can work to make improvements that affect every area of our lives, my hope is that you're beginning to discover this for yourself. You know, me just talking about how great this journey is all good. But if you're not having a personal experience or some level of progress, then our team wants to reach out to you and provide whatever type of support you require. You know, I remember the first time I began to learn about this, I was so excited because I used to think that the way I would think and feel was a result of everything going on around me. You know, if my work, my circumstances, the people in my life were good to me, then I'd be okay in here. But if those things were not going well out there, well, then I would just not be healthy at all. It would result in unhealthy thoughts, unhealthy emotions, high susceptibility to stressful, escalated situations. Being caught in that paradigm pretty much resulted in my whole life effort and focus going to make everything outside better, with hope that if I could just have all my ducks in order, which would include things like my finances, the way I wanted them, hope that my wife would be the exact woman I needed, and of course I'd have all my pleasure type activities in place, then I would have the ideal life. And I soon discovered that was illusionary thinking. Because life is both good and hard, I don't think we're able to make a perfect life. Life will dish out to each of us difficult circumstances, and that's pretty much guaranteed. You're going to get your share of them just like I have. But in spite of these, we can learn how to build resilience into our lives to get through that hard stuff. We can also learn to discover deeper levels of joy instead of chasing after happiness. Joy instead of happiness. Things like new cars, more money, and a better job are all good in and of themselves. But if we don't seek after a more internal success in our lives, the external things can become a trap. So let's get moving on to Lesson 5, which is going to be a little bit different today. In Session 1, we talked about how our psychological functions are an amazing part of us and they make up who we are. They also determine the success that we will have in our work, our relationships, and our overall quality of life. We then talked about how our psychological functions move back and forth from being in a regulated or an escalated state. Being escalated often would be considered unpleasant and a stressful place. Becoming escalated is okay and very normal as long as we don't move into this state too often or stay in it for too long, or find that we're unable to bring ourselves back to a regulated state. And then we close by talking about how many people view their psychological functions like the color of their eyes. It's something they cannot change, they're just born with it. However, the frontiers of brain science tell us that our brains are neuroplastic, which means they can change. Each of us are capable of making positive changes to our psychological functions, which means that we create awareness and learn how to regulate ourselves when we become escalated. In Session 2, we learned how to become aware of our psychological functions and how to bring ourselves from an escalated state back to a regulated state using our regulation tools. We then looked into the lives of Sue, Bill, and John as they began their journey in working to improve their psychological functions. Then we shifted and introduced engagement and how engagement works to create healthy connections between people, making us less susceptible to becoming escalated, and how actually being disconnected to people makes us highly susceptible to that escalation. In Session 3, we talked about what causes us to be more susceptible in becoming escalated, which involves learning about basic emotional needs that we have, and what happens when they're met or unmet or disregarded altogether. And then we talked about the deep intrinsic longings that people have for emotional connection with others. And this profound connection is experienced when these emotions are expressed and understood by others and validated. When this occurs, we experience a significant sense of feeling cared for, understood, and accepted. And having these needs met are basic to our sense of emotional safety. And when they're not met, our core survival responses of fight, flight, or freeze become activated. And if these needs are disregarded, as in a case when we feel criticized or insulted, put down, or rejected by others, our survival instincts become highly activated and we can rapidly move into that state of fight, flight, or freeze. In Session 4, we talked about how to resolve conflicts better in our life, and that relational conflict is the #1 cause of escalation. And then we looked at how when we have unmet needs such as empathy or compassion, being understood, receiving encouragement and validation. When we don't receive these, we become more susceptible to escalation. We also looked at the lives of Bill, Sue, and John, and we took a look at how they moved into an escalation state when they don't have those needs met. And how when they're in their escalated state, how much of their mental energy is directed towards survival responses. So for today, let's review the regulation tools listed in your wallet card. The following regulation tools have been developed to help people reduce susceptibility to becoming escalated and to regulate oneself when escalation occurs. Try to relate to which ones would be most beneficial to you and how they can be used with yourself or with others. Number 1 is HALT. HALT is an acronym to help you identify when you are hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. When any of these occur in people's lives, they can make you susceptible to escalation. Number 2 is work-life imbalance. As humans, we have a large range of needs, and work-life imbalances can cause us to ignore those needs. Number 3, social activities. Having people you can hang out with, family, co-workers, any sports clubs, hobbies, whatever, where you can experience play and laughter and a sense of ease and lightness. From this type of activity, some level of acceptance and validation are provided to us. Number 4, social support, which is where we receive deeper levels of support from people who we trust and feel free to be ourselves, to speak openly, or to be authentic and to be known for who we really are. From this type of relationship, a deeper level of acceptance and validation occurs. In the case that you do not have these type of relationships, you need to seek out a counselor who can provide you with this kind of support. Number 5 is cardiovascular exercise. This will help you maintain a balanced brain chemistry and de-stress you, which all works to build strong resilience. Number 6 is sufficient sleep. 7 is power napping. If you're able to power nap each day, the studies are emerging that the multiple benefits this provides, it creates a stronger resilience. Number 8, checking in with yourself. This is the practice of observing what the health of your thoughts and emotions are. It can be done through being reflective with yourself in thought, or it can be carried out through journaling. Number 9 is checking in with others. And this is the practice of observing what the health of your thoughts and emotions are by sharing them with an empathetic listener. Number 10 is gratitude breathing. This is slow breathing as you rehearse what you are thankful for. Number 11, prayer or meditation or any type of spiritual activity. Number 12 is increasing your tolerance, which is simply learning how to reduce your irritability levels. Number 13, setting healthy boundaries. Number 14, the practice of slowing. This will include taking a lunch hour, an evening, a day, or a week, and slowing down everything. This could include slowing the speed of your activities, the speed of your talk, or your thinking. Number 15, daydreaming and visualization techniques. Creative imagining of the best case scenario, best outcome, reaching your goals, or the place where you feel the happiest. For me, this is always imagining all my senses engaged for my favorite beach in Maui, which includes visualizing the sound, the smell, the temperature, the touch, and sometimes the taste of my Mai Tai. Number 16, talking on the phone or Skype with someone you know well to experience laughter or the playfulness or connecting in some way. Number 17, physically engaging a person in a non-sexual way, which could include receiving a massage, hugs, sitting next to someone, playing with a child, cuddling with their baby if given permission, or nose to nose with a pet. As humans, we all need to be touched. Number 18, mindfulness, meditation practice, or any type of spiritual practices. Number 19, spending time in nature and exercising in nature has been proven to even be more beneficial than mindfulness or exercise alone. Number 20, volunteerism, random acts of kindness, and a gratitude practice or journal are all areas that have been researched as beneficial for short and long-term regulation. Number 21 is Abraham deep breathing, and Sue demonstrated this for us in past sessions. Number 22, body awareness. Just noticing your breath without changing or judging, noticing where your body feels relaxed and bringing attention to what feels good. Now I want to go over the tools that you can use to regulate yourself when you are highly escalated. Number one is early detection. Learning to determine when you're in the early stages of escalation and to immediately move into regulation activities is easier than waiting until you're fully escalated. This is best done by checking in with yourself, gaining awareness of your psychological state to determine what level that you're at from 1 to 10. I want you to consider these two important points when you're checking in. Be curious about your thoughts and emotions to determine if you're experiencing discouragement, extreme or catastrophic thoughts, anger, impatience, low tolerance, or high levels of irritability, or desire to withdraw and isolate or move into conflict. Secondly, be curious about your physical body to determine if you have tension in your body, increased pain levels where physical pain exists, shortness of breath, the feelings of strong emotion in parts of your body such as anger in your forehead or anxiety in your chest. Emotions can often be felt somewhere in your body. The third regulation tool is this: timeouts. If you're experiencing escalation, respectfully be excused to move into self-care. As we discussed earlier, most of the time it's possible to be excused. Number 4, to find 3 or 4 regulation tools from the list we just reviewed, which were the tools to reduce susceptibility, and to become proficient in the use of them to help you move back to a regulated state. And remember, when you first begin learning how to regulate yourself, it's normal to require support. Now, let's do an experiential exercise to reinforce today's lesson. We broke various aspects of escalation and regulation into 3 categories, which include these: susceptibilities that bring on escalation. Number 2, triggers that shift you into escalation. And 3, identifying early or full stages of escalation and regulating oneself. All right, let's talk about the first one, susceptibilities that bring on escalation. You know, the deep-rooted causes that make us susceptible to shifting into an escalated state comes from past relationship fractures, which make it difficult for us to engage others, resulting in not having our deep emotional needs met or disregarded altogether. Basic emotional needs include a deep sense of feeling cared for, feeling understood, accepted, or being encouraged. Having these needs met are basic to our sense of emotional safety. And when they're not met, our core survival responses of fight, flight, or freeze become easily activated. The second one was triggers that shift us into escalation. Triggers that can begin the escalation process include feeling criticized, or insulted and put down, ignored or rejected by others. Or it may be a high level of irritability that we have from undealt with relationship fractures. When any of these triggers occur, our survival instincts become highly activated and we can rapidly move into an escalated state of fight, flight, or freeze. In the case triggers like this occur, that makes us feel overpowered, and it's important to seek support for you to help deal with those triggers. The third one was to identify early or full stages of escalation and regulating oneself. There are many early warning signs that you can learn to become aware of to detect escalation beginning to occur. Let's begin by looking at the signs in your physical body, which could include a strong physical sensation in your body, things like tightness or tension in your forehead, your chest, your neck, shallow breathing, or could include a numbness or just being stuck, kind of like a deer in the headlight situation. It could also include strong emotional sensations such as fear or anxiety, anger, guilt or confusion, disconnection from people. Relationally, it could feel like misunderstanding or invalidation, not feeling cared for or disrespected. It also could include a strong desire to fight or argue your point, or a strong desire to get away from the person as fast as you can and put them in that penalty box. So when you feel escalation coming on, learning how to put a difficult situation on hold by taking a time out and regulating yourself will eliminate you moving into a fully escalated state. So, let's now watch Bill, Sue, and John in various stages of the escalation process that we just reviewed. And after watching each person, we will pause, at which time I'd love for you to answer the questions in your workbook. Then let's create a group discussion with your answers as a group.
Hi Sue, how's your day going? Well, I'm doing fine. How's your day going?
It's good, but it's just so busy.
Yeah, I can imagine. Honey, they work you way too hard.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I have to work till 6:30 tonight.
Terry, I told you that I can't drive the kids to practice. Ugh.
Okay, thanks for doing that. Now let's watch the next person, and as you do, please try to relate to each of these questions for yourself. What are your susceptibilities towards escalation? What are some of your triggers that cause escalation? And what kinds of things could you do to avoid escalation coming on in the early stages? Or what can you do to regulate yourself when you're fully escalated? Now, let's do the last one. But before we do that, have you ever noticed how it's always easier to see the blind spots in others than it is to see your own? As you watch Bill, imagine how he could work to make significant improvements to the quality of his life by gaining higher levels of awareness as to what causes him to shift into an escalated state, and how he could learn how to regulate himself.
Hi, Bill. I just wanted to let you know that you're on night shift next month. I'll send you a follow-up email.
Oh, okay. I will look forward to your email.
Okay, we've come to the end of session 5. And this week I want to encourage each of you to continue working towards increasing your awareness towards your own emotional needs and try to have as many of them met as possible, which comes from being engaged with people. Additionally, you can learn to become skilled in identifying when escalation is coming on and to gain skills in how to move into the use of the regulation tools that will help you to come back to a regulated state. It was great being with you, and I really look forward to seeing you in session 6.